25. In Playa del Rey, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
By 2025, the LA Department of Water and Power plans on reducing its carbon footprint by over 70%. LA City residents and the LAPD have something to cheer about as the summer crime statistics come in. Anna Marcos has the numbers.
The LAPD's top cop rode in on a custom motorcycle to deliver the good news. In a decade full of dropping crime rates, LA is seeing its lowest violent crime figures yet.
Every category of violent crime is down. Homicide is down 10%. Rapes are down 28.5%. Robberies are down 11.2%. Aggravated assaults are down 9.6%. Gang crime is also down. Gang crime is down a total of 18% in the city.
We're coming out of one of the worst economic crises in history. We all know that. But even in the worst of time, when things were supposed to go crazy, we've kept crime going down.
Police say not only is the LAPD more proactive, but there's a new climate of cooperation between officers and residents, and that's made a big difference.
Solving crimes is twofold. Detectives, police work, and you know what? Somebody just say, hey, I know where this guy is, even anonymously. And that's happening more often. That's a fact.
Beck also talked about recent police-involved incidents, and he talked about a court ruling that has found the LAPD's impound policies do not follow state law. The LAPD plans to ask the city to appeal the ruling. But most of all, the chief talked crime, and he admitted many LA neighborhoods still have an uphill struggle.
The number one cause of death among young men of color in many of our neighborhoods is homicide, and it's almost always at the hands of another who looks and comes from the same neighborhood as they do. This is LA's burden.
But the burden is growing a bit lighter, and police hope the trend continues. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
It's been around for several decades, but many Angelenos have never before set foot at this airport. Cindy San Luis takes us to Van Nuys Airport and tells us about its rich history in our city.
The Van Nuys Airport recently celebrated its 85th anniversary with the reopening of the airport's main runway, 16 Right.
We really impacted our aviation tenants here when we reconstructed the main runway, 16 Right. And so we really appreciate all that they did to partner with us, to help us make it happen in the shortest amount of time.
Construction had been underway since February 2012 to update the runway, which hadn't had any major maintenance to it for 55 years, adding high-speed exit light modifications, new in-pavement approach lighting, and new pavement markings.
We just rehabbed it so that it'll be good for another 20 years.
So we have 2 runways. What began as a little metropolitan airport serving private pilots in 1928 has grown to serve a major role in the San Fernando Valley community.
We have over 12,000 jobs associated with the airport. So people in the area work, many people in the area work at the airport. We bring in $1.3 billion to the local economy. Smile big!
As part of the airport's thank you to the community, 1,300 Van Nuys Airport fans were treated to free airfield tours, free prizes, plane spotting, and vintage aircraft displays.
They look cool because they're big and they have colors, and then they're like planes, and then you got to see them lift off.
More than 100 businesses are located on the 730-acre airport, and it's one of the busiest general aviation airports in the world. But because it's not a commercial passenger facility, many locals hadn't visited the airport till now.
I've never seen Air Museum. I love seeing planes.
This community airport, this general aviation airport, is one of the busiest in the world, and it's extremely important for the San Fernando Valley.
And with the updating of runway 16 Right, hope is the airport will continue to serve the neighborhood for years to come. I'm Cindy San Luis for LA This Week.
The Van Nuys Airport Observation Area is open to the public daily from sunrise to sunset, and airfield tours are held each week with a minimum of 20 people required. Some of the city's most iconic landmarks aren't the buildings themselves, but the art painted on them. Anna Marcos tells us about the city's efforts to help preserve the city's mural art.
Are they art or eyesore? For 10 years, murals on private property were banned in the City of Angels. But LA's wall art is about to make a comeback after city leaders voted to bring it back.
The city of Los Angeles was once known as the mural capital of the world, whether it was in Venice or the east side of Los Angeles, some places in downtown. As early as the 1930s, when we had Siqueiros paint one of his first murals here at Placita Alvera, the city of Los Angeles was known as a place where it supported the arts, where we had free expression on our walls.
Murals were banned in 2002 after sign companies sued the city for allowing the murals but not allowing their advertising. The city has now gotten around that by putting murals in a whole new category. They are no longer part of the sign code. They are now works of art.
I want murals all around us. Thank you.
My name is Virginia Bell. I'm an artist. I am a muralist.
I quit my job 7 years ago to nurture the gift that God has given me, and I am ready to paint.
However, there will be restrictions on size and location, and for now, murals will not be allowed on single-family homes.
I certainly believe that the owner of a single-family property should have the right to put a mural on if he or she wants to.
Council members are working on a new ordinance that would allow murals on single-family homes in neighborhoods like Districts 1 and 14, where mural art is part of the culture.
It was our First Amendment expression. It gave us a sense of identity, meaning, and place. That's the significance of this motion today.
But some express concerns with issues like vandalism and the city's inability to regulate content due to First Amendment rights.
A significant number of complaints just on billboards and the messaging.
We never wanted murals to be neglected or removed because we're all for it. The problem is, how does legislation write the law to protect from vandalism?
I did not hear even one single call or letter in support from anyone residing in my district. So I'm going to support my district in not wanting to see murals.
Still, the vote has gone through. Mayor Eric Garcetti will now have to sign the bill, and artists will have to apply to register their murals. It may be several months before we see the first new murals go up. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
Meanwhile, the amendment to allow murals on single-family homes in some neighborhoods is making its way through committee. A City Hall drive netted a surprising number of one donation item for the homeless. It's something homeless advocates say is sorely needed but rarely given.
Yeah. Wow.
Not 100, not 1,000, but more than 15,000 pairs of socks donated to the Midnight Mission downtown. The 2-week-long sock drive was launched by Councilman Joe Buscaino in response to a gag gift of crazy socks given by Council President Herb Wesson to the council members on the first day of the new council session.
We launched the LA City Council Socks Drive as a way to pay forward our sock gift given to us by Council President Herb Wesson. Today, as you see before you, thousands of socks have flooded our individual offices as a response to our call for donations.
From a gag to a gaggle of socks, the Midnight Mission will distribute the generous donations to organizations citywide, and it would not have been possible without community involvement.
The students of Dana Middle School, Miss Crow's leadership class, in San Pedro for donating 500 pairs, students at Harry Bridges Elementary School, Gulf Avenue Elementary School in Wilmington for donating 500 pairs, San Pedro High School, Miss Carcamo's leadership class. Collectively, CD15 brought in approximately 5,000 pairs of socks.
When it comes to donations for the homeless, food and clothes usually come to mind first, but rarely socks. The head of the Midnight Mission explained just how essential a pair of socks is to those living on the streets. He spoke via a video message shown in council chambers.
We thank you for recognizing the need of those that are suffering from homelessness here in our community by providing these socks. You know, we might not think socks are a big issue in our lives, but for a homeless person, a new pair of fresh socks is the difference between a good day and a bad.
I remember being homeless, and I remember what it was like to not have clean socks and not have clean clothes.
And it looks like it's 15,000 pairs and counting, as Councilman Tom LaBonge made a last-minute donation, and Councilman Mike Bonin pledges even more socks.
We have a large and growing population of homeless children, so I'm going to go out later today and buy some children's socks and add this to the donation.
Yes,
Thank
fantastic,
you.
Mike.
Generosity guaranteed to warm not only hearts, but many a toes on a cold night. And at last count, the donation was closer to 20,000 pairs, with donations still flooding in. A Mr. Sid McSudian, representing downtown business owners, donated 7,000 pairs of socks. Councilman Buscaino's office brought in around 5,000 pairs, and Councilman Mitchell Englander's office 4,000 pairs. A $50,000 reward for an unsolved hit and run, and also for an unsolved murder. Also, the mayor holds office hours at City Hall and in Van Nuys. These stories and more in City Beat. The City Council has approved a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for the August 3rd shooting of 17-year-old Hamilton High School football captain Bijan Shushtari. He was the front passenger in a vehicle that was driving north on Crenshaw Boulevard, approaching Vernon Avenue. That's when the suspect's vehicle approached.
At least one suspect from that vehicle began shooting into the victim's vehicle that he was riding, and it struck him multiple times. He was transported to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries on August the 5th.
If you have any information on this crime, call the LAPD's Criminal Gang Homicide Division at 213-485-4341. Council members have also approved a $50,000 reward in the case of an unsolved hit-and-run incident that caused the death of 35-year-old Michael Bononomi. Police say Bononomi was crossing Ventura Boulevard in Studio City near Fairway Avenue on Saturday, August 17th, around 11:45 p.m., when he was struck by a vehicle and killed.
He was born and raised here in Los Angeles and was a respected advertising professional, an accomplished musician, and a very special friend to so many. We can't even count the number of friends that were at his memorial. We think maybe 300 people came to our little house, and it was just such a testament to him. He loved the Dodgers, he loved the Lakers, the farmers market, sunsets on the beach, and a barbecue with friends.
Police are looking for a white two-door 2008 to 2010 Mercedes-Benz that at the time had black paper license plates with yellow lettering. If you live closer to Van Nuys and would like to meet with a member of Mayor Eric Garcetti's office, you'll be able to do that without driving to City Hall downtown. Garcetti announced that a member of his constituent services team will be stationed at Van Nuys City Hall Tuesday through Friday during regular business hours to offer in-person assistance. You can sign up for appointments to speak with the mayor or a member of his staff by visiting the mayor's help desk at City Hall or by going through lamayor.org. You can also call the mayor's office or make an appointment on the mayor's Facebook page. SB 566, a proposed law to legalize the sale and growth of hemp in California, is getting a downvote from LA City Councilmember Bernard Parks and much of the City Council. Hemp comes from the same species as marijuana and looks similar to it in the wild, but is not as potent.
What the concern would be is that those that use the hemp market as a cover for selling and growing marijuana, if upon being arrested and recovery, it would require the law enforcement agency to then to do analysis on the hemp to determine the level of THC, and no lab in the state is equipped to do that.
The hemp law was approved by the legislature last year, but vetoed by the governor. Some of LA's buffest bodies compete for the title of Muscle Beach Champion, and an incredible honor for a bodybuilding icon. Gil Reyes reports from the Muscle Beach Championships in Venice.
Brawn and beauty mixing it up at what many consider to be the mecca of muscle and fitness. We're at the famed Venice Beach Gym, also known as The Pit, where some of LA's buffest bodies compete at this annual Labor Day physique contest. It's also where TV's Incredible Hulk receives an award.
I trained here years ago with the other bodybuilders like Arnold and then other people because I was doing anything at the time. As a matter of fact, I slept on the beach a couple of times. I had money to get an apartment. So I remember I just wanted to be here. If you fast forward 40 years later, here I am now. And this is amazing.
Two-time Mr. Universe famous actor and LA County Sheriff's Deputy Lou Ferrigno is formally inducted into the Muscle Beach Hall of Fame. Doing the honors, Marvel Comics icon Stan Lee, who co-created the Hulk character.
But he's also one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and I am so proud to call Lou Ferrigno my good friend.
Stan Lee also co-created Spider-Man, Iron Man, the Avengers, the X-Men, and a number of other muscle-bound Marvel heroes. For that, he receives his own award from the city of Los Angeles.
Stan Lee is and always will be a cultural icon. Nuff said, Excelsior.
Incredible physique or not, all are invited to train like an Iron Man or Iron Woman at the Venice Beach Gym, which is just steps away from the sand. A one-day pass costs $10. A year's membership is $150. A bargain compared to some of the other big chain fitness centers. At the Venice Beach Gym, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
The Muscle Beach Gym is operated by the LA Department of Recreation and Parks. And in this week's list of things to do, an 80s movie to help end the summer, celebrating Mexican independence and fashion from some of television's biggest shows on exhibit. Labor Day may be behind us, but summer is still not officially over yet. The LA State Historic Park at 1245 North Spring Street downtown is hosting an end-of-summer movie screening of the 80s teen classic, The Breakfast Club, starring 80s teen queen Molly Ringwald and the rest of the so-called Brat Pack. Takes place on Saturday, September 14th from 5:30 to 11 p.m. There will be food trucks and live music before the screening to keep everyone happy. Go to eatseehere.com for the cost of admission and other details. On Saturday and Sunday, September 14th and 15th, celebrate Mexican independence at Olvera Street Plaza downtown, also known as El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historical Monument. The annual celebration includes live music, dancing, carnival games and rides, and exhibit booths. The fun takes place both days from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. For a detailed map or directions and other information, go to elpueblo.lacity.org. And if you haven't already done so, head on over to the ongoing 7th Annual Art of Television Costume Design Exhibition at the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, or FITM, Museum and Galleries downtown at 919 South Grand Avenue. Over 120 original costumes from 15 popular television series and miniseries are featured in the exhibit. That includes costumes from the HBO hit Game of Thrones to the British import Downton Abbey to the NBC comedy Parks and Recreation. Go to fitmmuseum.org for museum hours and details. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. An iconic attraction here in the city celebrates 76 years of helping children and families make lasting memories. And to mark the occasion, one council member invited parkgoers to enjoy free rides one recent afternoon. This mother and child are making lasting memories atop this 76-year-old carousel at Griffith Park. A ride on a merry-go-round is a rite of passage for many babies and toddlers. And at a ripe old age of 9, Nina Fisher is already a veteran.
I've been on this merry-go-round a couple of times before.
To help mark the carousel's 76th anniversary and to celebrate the unofficial end of summer, Councilman Tom LaBonge treated park-goers to free rides on the historic Griffith Park merry-go-round. And as this plaque reminds riders, Franklin Roosevelt was president, Walt Disney made Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and gasoline was 10 cents a gallon 3/4 of a century ago.
It was put together in 1926, and
From 1926 to 1936, it was done in San Diego for the Exposition World Fair. And then in 1937, it came up here, and it's been here ever since.
The carousel, a 4-row Spillman carousel, is the only one left of its kind.
We have 4 rows, all horses, all jumpers, and we go quite fast. We go about 14 miles an hour.
The memories made are also one of a kind.
I grew up with my 7 brothers here at Griffith Park. Parents would take us over here and we'd ride, which was fun. There were no gates here. You could kind of hop on. Oh, I take my dates here. I still date my wife here.
It made me dizzy and it was noisy. Yeah. And I went up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down.
I've seen kids grow up, go to college, and now they have their own families. And they come back and they're like, do you remember me?
Proving that a simple 76-year-old ride that goes round and round can create memories that last a lifetime. And more ride trivia. The carousel has 1,026 light bulbs, and each month about 50 burn out. Also, the horsetails on the ride are made from real horse hairs and are from the original ride. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Innocent enough, fun, even frivolous. But releasing a Mylar balloon when you're done with it is asking for trouble. If one gets caught on a power line, it can arc, causing intense heat that can short transformers, cause an outage, spark a power surge that can destroy home electronics. So keep Mylar balloons close. The power you keep flowing could be your own.
Parents, distinguished faculty, mom, dad. Today's lesson, how to exercise with your kids and save the planet. First, you must believe. B, that your children really are the future. Second, you must do. Instead of jumping in the car, let's go for a walk, or a run, or even a bike ride. No pollution, no oil, no gas. And as long as we obey all traffic safety rules, we're cool. Lastly, you have to live. Live into our big, beautiful, healthy future. Be, do, live. Watch the road.
Hut. Hi, I'm Craig Irwin in Los Angeles.
Hi, I'm Trenton Irwin, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
All right, I believe we have a quorum. Thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Los Angeles City Council. All right, thank you very much. And today is Wednesday, September 11th. Today is the anniversary, obviously, of the tragic incident that occurred in this country. And I want to take time to reflect on the men and women, the brave heroes, the firefighters, the police officers, the civilians who all lost their lives on this tragic day in our country. With that, I'd like everybody to please rise, and we'll take a moment of silence as we dedicate this meeting on the anniversary of September 11th. Thank you. Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll? Mr. LaBonge, do you have a statement before we open it up?
I just wanted to say I just came from the fire department ceremony. We had one at 27s in Hollywood. Several years ago, someone gave me a piece of the World Trade Center. And it's in my office, and it's special to think of what's happened. Tonight on PBS, on Discovery, on many stations, there's some very in-depth documentaries, one about the firefighters of TENS, which is right next to the World Trade Center. And as you know, it was a day we'll all remember and what it is, but I wanted to share this with all of us here and ask the sergeant if we could place it in a spot so people could reflect. Thank you, Mr. Wesson, as always, and Mr. Englander for remembering the day that we'll never forget. God bless all those who serve our country. God bless all those who lost their lives and their families who are without them today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. LaBonge. And I know you and I have an event later this afternoon together at a fire station as well. And we shall never forget. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Blumenfield, Bonner, Buscaino, Cedillo, Engler, Fuentes, Huizar, Carrasco, Correa, LaBonge, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson, 13 members present, and a quorum. Mr. President.
Great, thank you very much. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Okay, approval of the minutes. Council Member Blumenfeld moves. Council Member Cedillo seconds. Next item.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Council Member LaBonge moves, and Council Member Krikorian seconds. And the next item.
Mr. President, items 1 through 11 are items noticed for public hearing. There's been a request from the Office of to continue item 1B for 2 weeks. Again, that's item 1B for 2 weeks.
Okay,
that date is September 25.
September 25, okay.
Items 1 through 11 are items noticed for public comment.
Okay, and do we have cards on those? We have cards on those. Okay,
we have cards on items 1A and item 2, sir.
Okay, so no cards on the balance of those items. We'll go ahead and open the roll. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, thank you very much. And where does that take us?
Items 12 through 28 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, I believe we're going to hold items 12, 13, 14, and 15 for commission appointments.
Very good, sir. We should also hold item 16 for a committee report to be circulated.
We'll go ahead and hold that on the desk for circulation. Following items, do we have any speakers in the queue? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Parks.
Yes, I'm sorry. Could we reconsider 26? I wanted to call that special.
26?
I thought it was... No, 26.
Okay, items 26 for reconsideration.
Yeah, they went all the way to 28.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open the roll for reconsideration on item 26. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and hold that. Mr. Parks? Okay, where does that take us? Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, that brings us to items 29 through 40. They're items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, and do we have any cards on 29 through, you said 40?
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
We have cards on items 31, 32, 33, 37, and 39. Again, 31, 32, 33, 37, and 39.
Got it. And the balance of those then, we'll go ahead and open the roll on the balance of those items. Members, do you have any specials? Seeing no specials, we'll go ahead and open the roll. 26 is already held. We reconsidered it for Mr. Parks. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, where does that take us?
Mr. President, item 41 is an item scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold it on the desk?
Okay, we'll go ahead and hold that on the desk. Is that Mr. Corian? Did you have anything on that? Okay, we'll go ahead and hold that then.
Mr. President, on the continuation agenda, item 42 is an item for which a public hearing has been held.
Okay, so item 42. That was yesterday's special. We held it over. And do we... Mr. Parks, did you want to go ahead and hold that or vote on it?
Please.
We'll go ahead and hold that on the desk as well. Okay, we'll go ahead and open up with presentations. And we'll... Mr. Kretz.
I'd like to ask that we call item 20 special, so if we could reconsider that, I need to offer an amendment.
Okay, we do have an amending motion for that being circulated, or is it already circulated?
Let's see.
Well, we'll go ahead and let's reconsider that then.
It's not here yet, so
that's okay. We'll go ahead and open the roll for reconsideration on item 20 for Mr. Koretz, and close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great. Okay, we'll go ahead and hold that and reconsider it for you. Wait for that to be circulated as well. That will go ahead and take us to presentations. And Mr. Labange.
I want you to all come in here. Delegation. Mr. President, Mr. Wesson, it's great to be here. Again, we have a very special delegation from Korea. We would like to ask their representative to come and stand next to me as well. And we also like to have the Korean Daily. If we could have their representative come up. Where's Michael? Where's Michael? Come up here. We move faster than Michael. Michael's a little shy back there. But I say firstly, Hanyo-seo. Hanyo-seo, Chingu. Let's welcome all these great leaders. There are over 14 businesses that are here today visiting us from Korea. And they all know that Los Angeles is the largest Korean population outside their native Korea. And the friendships that we have as we share the Olympic Games of 88, after we had the games in 84, as Busan is the sister city, as Namsung Mountain is a Namsung North here in Griffith Park, where the Koreans in the morning hike up there as if they're home. So special it is. We want to welcome everyone from this very special delegation here. And Mr. Wesson, we appreciate that right there.
I have a mayor with me.
You have a mayor with you we want to do. So we come over here on that. Each of them are here today, and especially the Maltene Lighting Company will be speaking on behalf of the delegation. And this is a young mayor. Yeah, all right. Good to see you. So this is right here. May I ask you to speak as the spokesperson? Thank you. Hold on here.
Hey, thank you. Shh. If we can keep the noise down a little bit, please, in the chambers. It's an echo chamber in here, not just council chambers. So thank you.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Young Hee Yang, working for Maltani Taeong Lighting as a president. As expected by the name of my company runs a lighting business, especially LED recently. I am one of the members who will receive Globalization Excellent Management Award sponsored by the Korean daily 중앙일보. It is a great honor for me to be here today. And thank you to LA City Council for inviting our members here. My company has been doing writing business 30 years in Korea and export writing in the world, except United States, unfortunately right now. However, US will be our next business partner. Hope to see you soon again, and I will appreciate your help and encouragement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's an honor to have you here. Thank you very much.
And Mayor Lee is right here with this, one of the larger cities of Korea, please.
I am Mr. Lee. Is mayor in Daegu Metro City, okay?
Good, so we go visit you one time. Mr. Wesson, we thank you for your leadership all the time, as well as Mr. O'Farrell and all those in and around the Wilshire Center, Koreatown area. But the Korea Daily does a great job, and let's give them a big hand for bringing this delegation here.
Thank you very much.
I'll make the presentations in the press room. Say, 감사합니다. Everybody, 감사합니다. All right, good job.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Labange. And as you well know, in the 12th district, we have the highest population per capita of Koreans living in my district than anywhere in the city of Los Angeles. So really appreciate you bringing everybody forward as well.
And before redistricting, I had it.
That's right, and now I do. I'm proud of it. All right, with that, Mr. Wesson, are you ready? We're also honored with the presence of Mr. Don Liu, who's in council chambers. Mr. Don Liu, welcome to council chambers. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. We appreciate all your service to the great city of Los Angeles. Mr. Wesson has a presentation and will be up next. Okay, while he's making his way, we'll go ahead and take item 16, which was circulated. There are no cards on 16, so we'll go ahead and item 16 was circulated. We'll open the roll on item 16. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I have a very special presentation today. I'm honoring the Red Cross. Each and every one of us, we all know what the Red Cross does. But my guess is you don't think about them on a daily basis because they come in when there's danger, when there's a need. For me, it's a little special. My sons were little. I was a basketball coach. I'm coming home from the Y, and I get to my street and I see this blazing fire. And I say to the police officer, "Wow, what address is that?" It was my house. I go in, house was destroyed, and it was a very devastating time for my family and myself. The Red Cross stepped in and helped us, gave us just the couple of weeks that we needed to get resettled. So that's why it's an honor for me, for personal reasons, to bring the Red Cross before each and every one of you. September is Preparedness Month, and basically that's what we're talking about. We've seen in the last couple of years tragedies and disasters all over the globe, and basically what they're pushing is something so simple, and I'm glad to say that I have done it this time, is to make sure that we're prepared in the event that there's some kind of natural or unnatural desire. So I have my preparedness kit. Even though I can't say it, I've got it. I can promise you that. And basically, they're trying to outreach to all of the people in this city and county to make sure that they're prepared. It's just like when many of us men here were Boy Scouts, our motto was be prepared. It makes no sense that we're not prepared now. So with that said, I want to acknowledge that we have Sharon, a friendly face to this council chambers. She used to work for Councilman Dennis Zine. Now she's with the Red Cross. And now I'd like to present to you the CEO and my friend, Paul Schultz. Please come. Give Paul a round of applause.
All right, thank you very much. Paul, and a dear friend that we've worked together with for many years, so thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember Englander. Thank you so much, Council President Wesson, for that introduction, and we are so glad to be working with you in your office, and we would like to work with all of the different councils in getting Los Angeles better prepared. We all know that lives were saved on 9/11, as we remember this day 12 years ago. Yeah. Many lives were saved because of the preparedness that was done in the Twin Towers and other locations. We see that preparedness saves lives in Japan. We know about those that perished, but many others were saved because they practiced emergency exit drills. We at Red Cross would love for Los Angeles to be better prepared. We have lots of tools, tips, advice, information on how to get prepared. We are really reaching out to communities to get better prepared. A great example, Crenshaw Christian and their festivals this Saturday have invited us to do preparedness with them. So we're really a community grassroots approach with our volunteers. And we would love for every council member to work with us as we focus on Preparedness Month. And we know the dangers in Los Angeles, but we really hope we can get better prepared. So thank you so much for this proclamation, and thank you for supporting us, and thank you, Council President, for the great work that you're doing with us.
Thank you. Thank you. I panicked for a minute because I didn't see my proclamation, but here it is. Come on, Sharon, you get in here. Yeah, you deserve it.
All right, let's give them a round of applause. The Red Cross. Mr. Wesson, thank you very, very much. Let me say the Red Cross also has really come a long way. There's an app for that, and you know I'm a true believer in anything you can download on your smartphone and have information with you in your hands everywhere all the time at a moment's notice. In fact, Red Cross has two apps now. One on all the disaster preparedness, reunification centers, all the local contacts. It's phenomenal. I've got that. You've also got the earthquake app as well, which will monitor any seismic activity. You can set it up to different type of alerts to tell you what's happening, when you can expect aftershocks. It's got all kinds of information on it. And your recent database, what you've done, because I've just actually researched this as well, where you do your blood drives. And it used to be you'd have to bring your card and you have to let them know last time you did it, and depending on where you did. This will actually tell you how often and when you can give blood. You can show up anywhere at any time. It's got all your information saved in it. You can go anywhere in the nation as one database. There's nobody in the world that has anything like this. And I know it's been years in the making, where for the first time in Red Cross history, you had to take your system offline to then upload all the information and flip the switch. I believe it's now active, and it's incredible. So everybody who's ever given blood, it's got all your information in there, what blood type, when you can give. You just have to show up and sign up and donate, and we encourage everybody to do that. You guys are doing God's work out there. God bless you. Thank you very much. And Sharon as well, you're no stranger to these council chambers. Sharon Sandow, for those of you that don't know, was many, many years ago the Chief of Staff for Councilman Dennis Zine, has gone on to do great things, and now working with the Red Cross. It's great to see you back here in Chambers. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Another round of applause for the Red Cross. All right. Thank you very much. With that, where does that take us? Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, that takes us to item 1A, called Special for Cards.
Okay. First, if we could, Phil Markowitz. Philip. followed by Jeffrey Cohen. Please make your way to the podium. Philip, are you here? Going once? Going twice? Okay, not here. Jeffrey Cohen. Jeffrey Cohen in? Going once, going twice. Okay, John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or J. Walsh Confidential. And these are liens for unpaid taxes. The city is good at going after these unpaid taxes. You're doing an excellent job. The city attorney is doing an excellent job there. I'm John Walsh at HollywoodHighlands.org. I'm just wondering, Pacific Dining Car, you go there all the time. That's the #1 place for politicians. Yet they owe $33,600.51. What's happening? Are you being fair to the Pacific Dining Car, or are you being unfair? Pacific Dining Car, go in there. You'll find it packed with politicians. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Hey, John, go ahead and stay there if you'd like. You've got other cards, items 2 and 13.
Okay. Item 2, I'm just going to, this concerns a liquor license, an alcohol, for your convenience. Now, where is this? Smart and Final. And below that, you've broken a barrier. They're giving liquor licenses to Bed, Bath, and Beyond. Wait a second, you don't go there to get drunk, and I'm saying to every one of you city councilmen, especially the new ones, every time you see a drunk driver kill somebody, and most of them hit and run, it's because we have more liquor licenses and more places per square mile in America to buy alcohol. Now, you don't give a rat's ass because some of these companies are giving you money. But remember, I always say to that audience out here, it is dangerous, tourists. Do not come to Hollywood. You will be run over. You will be killed on the boardwalk. You will be killed on the funicular, a dangerous flight. This is a dangerous, dangerous city. It has an outbreak of tuberculosis. All tourists must realize this city is dangerous. Go to San Francisco. Go to Santa Monica. Stay away from the city of Los Angeles.
And Mr. Walsh, we also have you on 37, 33, and 32 if you want to use your time on those as well. Feel free.
And incidentally, after I'm finished, you can turn off the TV. There's nothing interesting that's going to happen here. They're all going to be what I call circle jerking. And okay, now the DWP, you're putting 5 new people in there. I just want to say, I would like to point out, as bad as the DWP, what is it up in anybody who's ever lived in the Bay Area knows that the DWP is from God. What are they paying out to San Bruno? $500 million for blowing up their city? Look, DWP, a little high. I'm not an angry white guy who doesn't like my white bills. I don't like those bills for DWP. I'm not that. I'm not one of those people. And the next issue is 32 and 37. And this concerns these court cases. This is where you're going to be handing out $3.5 million of your taxpayer money. They're settling. Why are they settling? We don't know, and they're going to go in the back room and decide. Millions and millions of dollars. Incidentally, Leon Prayport, the Holocaust survivor who was killed on Angel's flight, no one killed on the red line, no one killed on the blue line. It's the slowest low-speed rail. It goes 10 miles an hour, it goes 800 feet, and you've killed one person, and his wife Lola Prayport was in fact, maimed and died soon after.
Which item were you on? Because I wasn't on any of those particular ones.
Now this issue, what I'm pointing out is that we have these gigantic payouts to certain people, but when it's a Holocaust survivor, they only get $1 million. You killed, and what happened? We had another derailment. And incidentally, they were trapped inside the car, and the fire department.
This is not on the item. If you could please stay on the item.
Now on Adam, I'll bring this up when I get up on the public comment. So don't turn off the television and turn on in about an hour or so because there's more that you can do with your life than watching these people. Number 41, this is closed session. This is another preliminary injunction barring the removal of property from the sidewalk. You racist swine! Those people are there because of the contractors that you make business with. They want to take every black and Hispanic person in this city, and first they put them in Skid Row. Now they want to get rid of them. Carol, there's a lawsuit now, and this is supposed to be a liberal group. But you are trying, the only time tuberculosis outbreaks is in extreme poverty. We have poverty like Bombay here, and the people who are trying to keep their stuff, and you're going to go in the back room because you don't have the guts to get up here and say how racist you are. Settle with these people. They have a right for their belongings on the street. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Right, thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and take Juana Calla on all your items for efficiency as well, on items 2, 12, 20, 15, 14, 41, 31, and 13.
Yeah, but I'm not as good as Mr. Welch talking about it, so many items at once. I like to talk about them one by one. Can we do that?
We've got them all before you, so you can pick whichever ones you want to speak about.
Item 2, alcohol. Item 1, tax liens. Tax liens, you're driving the people homeless, more and more homeless. How can anybody be out on the street because they owe you tax money? Everybody pays taxes anyway. How can you put people out on the street for not paying taxes? Totally stupid. Okay, item 2, alcohol. Yeah, alcohol is not a drug. Don't do drugs, but alcohol is not a drug because we make a lot of money out of it. And you're not about helping people, you're about helping yourselves with a big spoon. You're about driving that limo with all those ladies in the limo. That's what you're all about. You're not about helping people. If you did, you would ban alcohol. So don't talk out of one side of the mouth. We do one thing, and out of the other side of the mouth, we need your money. We need your labor. All you're doing is making slaves out of everybody. That's all you're doing. And you're all guilty, by the way. You are guilty when anybody gets hit on the streets because of alcohol consumption. You are guilty because you're allowing it. You are guilty when a homeless person dies on the street because they were taking all their possessions away and they don't even have a place to sleep anymore. And you take their blankets and everything else, and they died of what do you call that? When your body temperature goes too low? You know what I mean? Yeah, all those items are items that you are guilty for. You are all guilty. Why don't you just why don't you all just go to jail directly? Do not pass go. Go to jail. That's where you need to be. Because you're not creating programs that help people get out of the streets, get out of poverty. All you're doing is creating slaves for your little system. No, your little big system, because It's all over the world. Those stupid Koreans that just came, oh, my city, my city. Excuse me.
Okay, can we please stay on the subject matter?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The subject is that cities control everything.
Okay, if you're not on anything on the agenda item on all the cards you filled out, then we'll call your time. But if you can't, if you're going to yell from the audience, you're disrupting the meeting, and I'll ask you to leave the chambers.
Well, we're allowed to call you stupid now,
so,
you know?
If you want to go ahead and speak to any items on the agenda.
Yeah.
Please. Thank you.
The item is you need to stop being stupid, okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll call your time. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Mr. Sachs, come on up. Mr. Sachs, I'll address you as soon as you come to the podium. We'll have some decorum in these chambers, and I'm not going to yell back and forth. Okay, you're going to be, as you're approaching, item 12, item 13, item 14, 31, 33, 39, and 41. Those are the cards you filled out, sir.
Yes, this turbo city council action that you all of a sudden have approved.
Do you want to speak to the actual
I am
items,
speaking
sir?
to the actual items. You called 7 items up. You give 5 minutes. This is a new...
Following the rules of the council, if you want to please speak to the actual items, you can hold that for public comment if you'd like, but these are right now, you're on... Just speak. Just take your time.
You mentioned the rules of the council, sir. So I'm allowed to speak about the rules of the council or not allowed to speak about the rules of the council?
It's not on the agenda. So if you want to speak...
You mentioned it, so stay on the agenda then.
Okay, stick to the
You're calling items that have already been held in committee, which on the other items, you're not allowing us to speak on items that have been held in the committee, which are your commissioners. So what rules are you pertaining to, sir? Regarding the water commissioners. As water commissioners, you're charged with overseeing DWP. There's a new ratepayer advocate. He's made 3 rulings, 2 the city council have overturned, and 1 the mayor has overturned. So what's your judgment of the job that the ratepayer advocate is doing? The city council has 4 years ago allowed 1,500 employees, I think at least 1,000 employees, to be transferred to DWP in lieu of being laid off. So what's your consensus on infrastructure rebuilding in the city of Los Angeles when you have to pick up the salary of 1,000 employees? Oh, wait a minute. You don't pick up the salary because that money is deducted from the transfer made by the Department of Water. What about the Department of Power? Oh, wait a minute. They don't make a transfer to the city. So how does that work out? And what's your feelings about that, Mr. Commissioners who aren't here right now? That being said, you have some other items on your agenda. Oh, you have a $10,000 fee for a program, and there's nothing listed up here, Mr. President, on the bulletin board about the items that we're talking about, which is part of the rules, sir. In today's newspaper, there's a story in the Daily Breeze. Students balk at Garden Grove event fee. $75,000 to hold an event in Garden Grove. The city is collecting $10,000 for an event in the city. Please don't tell me that Garden Grove employees are 7.5 times more valuable than the city of Los Angeles employees. That doesn't make sense. Not to say anything about the city employees of Garden Grove, but why are the students in Garden Grove High School having to pay $75,000 when you're charging $10,000 for a fee to be held in downtown Los Angeles? Then you have a closed session item regarding removal items of people on the sidewalks. So I'm wondering, in the legal proceedings, because in this item from Wednesday, April 10, 2013, and in this item from Wednesday, June 12, 2013, you mentioned that the sidewalks, public right-of-way. So which is it? When you sue in court, do you use the legal documentation of sidewalks, or do you use the legal declaration of public right-of-way? Because it is different. Because we hear how much money you want to spend on sidewalks, yet when you talk about it in your agendas, sometimes you list it as public right-of-way. And you're not spending money on public right-of-way, you're spending money on sidewalks. And we know from previous experience that you're open and transparent, but that doesn't sound very open and transparent. That being said, I believe I have one more item to speak. Oh, it's the community benefits district that you want to solve. You know what's missing from there, and you know what's included in there? This is going to be overseen by the city clerk's office or CAO's office, and not by a nonprofit. So why not change, because the South Park has the South Park Community Benefit District. There's a Avenue of the Stars Community Amenities Trust Fund. The difference being that these are being overseen by city offices and not by nonprofits that are created by the improvement districts. That means there's no excess money floating around, no plums to be pointed out or handed out by city councilmen for their districts to be run as businesses for profit. No accountability, because nonprofits, they don't have an agenda. They don't have open meetings to the public. How about that? And by the way, this turbo business.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Herman, you've got items 13, 15, and 1A. You go ahead. 1A, 13, and 15. 1A, 13, and 15.
Good morning.
I'm sorry, 13 and 15, the public comment's already been satisfied, so it's just 1A, just the one item.
Which item do you want me to speak on, sir?
Just 1A.
1A at the moment?
That's it, just 1A at all.
Well,
the other items, public comment was already satisfied.
I haven't done public comment. How can you satisfy the general public comment?
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hold my time? And
go ahead on all three and go ahead. We'll start
my time.
over.
As a reminder, folks, LA Times, see it for yourself. People with disabilities having the problem of using their sidewalks we pay for, and in addition, safe streets. But I'm on topic number 1 about taxes. And it's a damn shame when you see the majority of homeless people on 7th and Olive being harassed by whom? They pay taxes. They purchase things from your restaurants where you sell alcohol, where you sell cigarettes. These are people of poverty. And you take advantage of the situation saying, oh, let's put a lien for unpaid taxes. What about all the liens that you have not recovered under building and safety? What about those? So on item 2, because that was part of my talk, we see that our councilman, Jose Huizar, has opened up a license throughout the city with all these restaurants. But what's the purpose of these restaurants?
Mr. President, he did not put a card in on item 2.
Yes, I did, sir.
We don't have a card on that. So
I'll fill one out for you, but I'm going to speak on item 2.
We've already
Well, you interrupted me. What item do you want me to speak on now?
On the items that you filled out cards for.
I picked out
13 and 15.
2, 13, and the numbers I chose.
We don't have items 2 for a card for
I'll give you
13
a card.
and 15.
May I continue? Thank you.
You can continue on 13
Furthermore,
and 15.
in addition to alcohol license in L.A.,
I'm sorry, I got to cut you off. I'm going to cut off. Your clock is going to burn. You're not on the right item. So if you're going to speak to items 13 and 15, then
whereas, since the legislative has only 4 days to make a motion on ideas that are totally irrelevant to what we need to talk about. We need to talk about the enforcement when it comes to motions and resolutions that the public are unaware about, right? They're unaware of this. And yet, Mr. Koretz, I only spent 10 minutes and I think we should hold back. This should be put to the side and allow the federal government to deal with. Medical marijuana.
He again is not talking about the items for which
we've got to stay on the item cards. That's your third warning. So now it'll be disrupting the meeting.
Right?
General public comment is we haven't taken general public comment yet. We'll come back to that after the meeting.
Then what's my next item, sir?
13 and 15.
13.
It's up on the board. It's right in front of you.
I'm a physical touching person. I like to read off my paper, please.
Speak to the items, and you're just going to stand there. It's actually a disruption of the meeting.
I'm not trying to disrupt. You keep interfering.
I'm asking you to speak to the items. Okay. So that if you're not speaking to the items, it's just disrupting the meeting, and you're being repetitive on that. So Okay, we'll go ahead and call your time on all of that then.
13.
Unless you want to continue it.
I
Okay,
may.
you're done. No, thank you very much then. We'll
2
appreciate
minutes.
it. We'll bring you back for public comment. You've got a card for that. Thank you. Thank you. Your time is up. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go ahead and take, we'll go ahead and sergeants, yeah, thank you. If we could take items, the balance of those items, I believe we have no other cards on those items. We have cards. Oh, okay, go ahead. If you have a card on 2, sir, please.
Okay, 2 cards and 1A. Okay, good morning, Council. My name is Jeff Cohen. I'm here on behalf of the taxpayer on item 1A. This is the Office of Finance's attempt to impose a tax lien for the transient occupancy tax. Now, my client advertises on the internet as follows. You can come here and stay at my house, and I will provide chef services, maid services, and you can stay here overnight. And quotes an amount for all 3. The overnight stay is arguably a taxable event under the transient occupant tax. The chef services is also a separate taxable event. The method of enforcement by the Office of Finance, rather than attempting to apportion the amounts charged for these different taxable events, decided to say, you know what, we're going to charge this taxpayer, impose a tax for the higher tax, the transient occupancy tax, on the gross amount, send them a bill for $38,000 based on when an ad purportedly first came out, even though there was no actual services provided, and then let the taxpayer come in and try and fight us on that. We submit that that is an improper and an unlawful method of enforcement. So we oppose the tax on those grounds, and we oppose the method of enforcement.
It's also based on speculation, as a term.
It's also based on ads. It's an estimate. It's not based on actual hard evidence of any actual stays. They've just decided that there would be 4 stays a month for the last X amount of years. Without any sufficient evidence of the tax that is being imposed, and without apportioning it to another taxable event for chef services, that method of enforcement is improper and will be challenged in a court of law if we're not able to resolve this. We think it's fundamentally unfair.
Okay, thank you very much. We actually did have a card for you, sir. We called it earlier when we first started. You were the first speaker. You weren't in chambers is what happened, so, but that's fine.
The Office of Finance.
It's okay. Okay, no problem. We're going to take all the items now except for commissioner appointments that were on 12, 13, 14, and 15. We do have items 20 holding for an amending motion that's being circulated. We are holding items 26. And we're holding items 41 for closed session and 42. The balance of those items, if we can open the roll.
So, Mr. President, for clarification, we will be voting on items 1A, 2, 31, 32, 33, 37, and 39.
That's correct. That's exactly what I have. Terrific. So with that, members, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Great. Thank you very much. And thanks for being patient to our soon-to-be commissioners. We really appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and take items 12, 13, 14, and 15. Mr. Fuentes, if you want to open it up.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to invite the commissioners to the center table, all 4 of you, please. And as they're coming up, I want to point out that Mr. LaBonge is the lucky winner here. 3 of the 4, please sit at the center table there. Mr. LaBonge's district has 3 soon-to-be commissioners from CD4, and Mr. Bonin has Mr. Funderburg. These commission candidates were interviewed by the Energy Environment Committee on Monday, and they were all unanimously approved members to come before you for your confirmation.
Great, thank you very much. And with that, we'll go ahead and ask any Mr. Blumenfeld. ask the commissioners to open up, but we'll have council members go ahead and open it up. Mr. Blumenfeld, please.
Okay. Well, I don't have questions. I just have a couple of comments. There's two of the members on that are before us that I know very, very well, and I wanted to make a couple comments about both. Starting with Jill Berard, the chair of the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils. She's been just a great voice. Known you for more than a decade, and just have been a great voice for the Valley, for the community, and you're going to be a great addition. And I just know that you're going to be a strong voice, and I want to thank you for heeding the call and coming before us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then I also want a special for Congressman Levine. Known him for multiple decades. When I started with Howard Berman back in the early 90s, in 91, he was in Congress, and the two of them were such close friends that I felt like I worked for you for years, because we worked together on so many things. And over the years, you've not only been a mentor to me and an advisor, but just an amazing role model. So I wanted to acknowledge both of you, acknowledge all of you that are here, but particularly the two that I know so well, and just to add my voice in advance of the questions for my support for you. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Parks.
Good morning. So pleased to see all of you. I just had not any questions, because you're going to be inundated with questions as you take on your assignment. But there's about 5 or 6 priorities that I hope that you'd look at. And if you've read the paper over the last couple of years, you'll probably recognize some of these. But the one thing I would hope you'd be looking at very closely is the overall medical cost of LADWP employees, not only where we put a lot of time on the percentage they might pay for their existing medical or their retirement, but the overall cost of their programs, which have spiraled out of control in my judgment, where when you compare them to the rest of the city, over the last 10 years, medical costs has gone up by 110%, and DWP is over 170%. And so those are things that at some point I think we're going to have to look at whether you even consider freezing their subsidy so that you can bring in and rein in some of the costs. The other issues, even though in this recent contract there was discussion about a new tier and new pension reform, because it's an in-house inclusionary system, it is even more of an effort to bring light to that by the Commission. Because of that, the Commission is the one group that can control pension costs. And as you know, the things that put the city in structural deficit is generally personnel costs, whether it's dealing with medical, salary, or pension costs. And in many instances, I think it's pretty clear that pension costs alone is going to drive many more structural deficit and maybe even bankruptcy down the road. It appears that we're in pretty good shape of paying pensions for people that are retired, but existing employees and future employees just might be in trouble. And so these are things that we'd hope you look at. The issue of renewable energy, unfortunately, we hear about that only around the time of a rate increase. And then when we go back and look at what's done between rate increases, it's not been impressive. And I think if you look at some of the short-term decisions about when and how we were able to use it or not use it, you're going to find that we spent a lot of money on renewable energy that we got very little benefit of. And even though we have high percentages to reach, it's been a very costly program with little results. The other one is disparity in salaries. There's about 200 positions in the DWP that range from 20 to 40% difference in salary. We're not talking about the people that deal with the 10,000 volts of electricity. We're talking about dispatchers, accountants, the identical same list that promote and hire people in other city departments. Just because you're fortunate enough to go to DWP, your salary is 20 to 40% over, and some instances is 20 to 40% over the industry standards. So that's another issue, and as you know, salary drives the whole issue of the structural deficit. What came to light during the negotiation of these side letters, it appears that over the last couple of decades that we've had individual general managers and unions make decisions that never came before the board, never came to the council, yet they cost literally millions of dollars to implement and continue as far as bonuses and a variety of things. And then finally, the pending water and power increases, rate increases. If we look back in the city, we've doubled or tripled trash fees. We've had 5 or 6 consecutive years of parking enforcement fines. The community is almost to the point, particularly with water bills and power bills, of saying we price ourselves out of business. And so there's really a need to look at how we can restrain that. Many people don't understand that tier program, and if you happen to get a bill trying to explain why it all of a sudden went out of kilter, it's because of somebody that month got a little bit out of the tier, and it's very expensive in that regard. And so those are 5 or 6 things I'd ask you to look at. They're not new. There's probably stuff in file that's got dust on it that people looked at and chose not to deal with. But hopefully you'll have the will to bring some of these things to conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President, and congratulations to all of you on your appointment. I want to echo Mr. Blumenfield's comments with regard to Congressman Levine and also my dear friend and former constituent, Jill Banks-Barad. This is a historic appointment. For all of you, this is a historic moment in our city, and your leadership of our utility at this critical moment, this really challenging moment when we're going through almost complete infrastructure replacement and we're going through rate challenges that we have. We're changing the relationship with labor, we hope. In so many ways, this is a transitional moment in our city's history that you're joining this department on. But I want to speak specifically to Jill's appointment because I don't know that there has ever been a time in our city's history when a voice of neighborhoods, a voice of our neighborhood councils has taken on this role in the Water and Power Commission, which is something that the neighborhood councils have sought for so long. And I can't think of a better person to fill that role than you, Jill. And I think it's going to be a unique opportunity for ratepayers and for the residents of our communities to have a unique voice on the board, and I couldn't be more thrilled about your appointment. I want to just ask a couple of questions, I think, related to some of Mr. Park's topics and give you all an opportunity to speak to them if you choose. First, I have a little different view than Mr. Parks with regard to our renewable energy portfolio. I mean, yes, there are some contracts that standing by themselves may not seem like they're cost-effective relative to gas. But over the longer term, when you consider the state mandates, the federal mandates that we're operating under, the deferral of the need for more investment in gas-powered generation, I think that a sustainable renewable portfolio over the long haul is in fact cost-effective, and I'd like to know what your thoughts are on our commitment to renewable energy. I'd also like to hear your thoughts on the ratepayer advocate and the need for this board and the department to be completely and unflinchingly cooperative with our ratepayer advocate when it comes to access to records and otherwise giving him the information that he needs to be able to assess the actions of the department. Mr. Parks mentioned the side letters, and it's something that I want to reiterate as well, because over the course of decades, this department has entered into transactions with its employees that this council has never been aware of, that never came before the Budget Committee, never came before the Personnel Committee, never came before this council, and that just can never happen. So I'd like to know that all of you are committed to ensuring that any side letters like that that come before you will also come before the council, or else they won't be entered into. Then finally, I'm hoping that, I think most of you are probably aware that a couple of years ago there was a showdown, if you will, between the council and the board with regard to the power revenue transfer and its relationship to our refusal to enter into a rate increase, and particularly an ECAF increase at that time. And if you are aware of that, I'd like to know your thoughts about the relationship between the power revenue transfer and this council's action and your commitment to cooperating with the council when it comes to ensuring the continued viability of our budget and our reliance on our expectation of receiving the power revenue transfer. And congratulations.
Well, I'll jump in. Mr. Councilman, thank you very, very much for your warm comments and your congratulations and your questions. Frankly, I'm not familiar with that history, but I can tell you this, speaking for myself, it's obviously critically important that we work very closely with the council as well as the mayor. And in terms of the significant challenges that we're going to be facing, some of which were outlined by Councilman Parks and by you, cooperative and collaborative work is essential. And I can assure you that we will be working closely with you and that we will be seeking transparency and openness in all of our actions.
I want to thank Councilman Krikorian for your very, very kind words. You know, the neighborhood councils were the ones that really pushed for a ratepayer advocate. And I certainly would pledge, and I'm sure my colleagues would too, to work closely with the ratepayer advocate. But I don't think the ratepayer advocate should work in a vacuum. We should work together. And I think it's important that the ratepayer advocate hear from not only the community, but the business community as well. Because DWP touches every pocketbook in LA, business and the residents. And in terms of transparency, you know, that tends to be an overworked word now. But in this case, it's appropriate. We must have transparency. We must be able to look inside DWP.
Great. Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you and Mr. Fuentes, because my district runs from the heart of the city in Wilshire area throughout the Hollywood Hills and then to the San Fernando Valley, way out to Sepulveda. There happens to be 3 members. It would all be different districts if the redistricting wasn't what it was, but it is what it is. That being said, you have an important role in so many ways, and I hope you develop individual skills. And Mr. Levine and John for All Chambers, I invoke the name of John because he loved you and what you did as a congressman for the United States and your service and your knowledge of the city. And I think that will be helpful to make sure we make congressional delegations knowledgeable of Los Angeles' needs, not just the Los Angeles delegation, but the California delegation and other parts as well. Sometimes we get the bad end of the stick because we're big bad Los Angeles, think we know everything, we're movie stars, all that baloney. We're real people who need real needs, and DWP has provided those needs for over 100 years. Generation, transmission, distribution, the power, and having a blend. Look at the blend. It can't go all ways. Some days it's not windy. Nice breeze last night, but if it doesn't blow, you don't get the power. Sometimes it's cloudy, you don't get the sun. Having the diversity of power use is so important. And I also believe in tours, Jill. I believe in tours to show people what the port's about, what the city hall's about, and what DWP's about. And not fancy tours, not in Lincoln Town cars, but in buses. And take them out to the table. Like that table, you go to Lee Vining. The creek is about as wide as that table. That's where the water starts that flows to the aqueduct. Show them where it is. Show them about it and educate people. Information is knowledge is power. I want to thank you all. Celebrate the department's history. This year is the centennial of Mulholland. Without water, we wouldn't have grown. Without water, we wouldn't have built this city. But education is so important. But develop your specialties. All of you come from great backgrounds. So the specialties will help the department. There's a lot of good people over there who have done great things as engineers and others to support, out working high on top of a 75-foot pole in the heat of the desert right now, connecting transmission to power this light. And more importantly, Mr. President, to power this microphone. I thank you, I congratulate you, and wish you well, and call on me for help. okay, and work with the neighborhoods, the business community. You gave a great speech, all of you did, but Jill, that was very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. All I have is a request of Billy here. It's my understanding, and I met them, that you have some very special guests with us today. Would you introduce them? I mean, I think it's important.
Well, besides my two wonderful daughters, the Reverend Dr. James Hargett and his wife, Dr. Llewellyn Thunderberg Hargett, are here in the back of the chambers, and those who remember him in the 60s, he ran Martin Luther King's campaign in the 1960s in Los Angeles. So I wanted to recognize him. I hope to serve a fraction of what he did in serving DWP and the ratepayers of the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you.
Great. Thank Mr. Labange again for a second.
In preparation of my notes, I found one very important thing. Recreation of parks and libraries. They pay a rate. Look at their rate to see what you can find out. They're great institutions that need your help and partnership. Rec and Parks does not charge you when the RSC, River Supply Conduit, comes through Griffith Park. They don't charge you on that. But it's very important in Mr. West's district and all our districts that you lower the rates for libraries and rec and parks so we can continue our reading programs and also our athletic, youth, and other programs. Thank you so much. Rec and parks, libraries. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers on the queue, I want to just make a quick comment as I don't know most of you, but I've worked with some of you over the years, and particularly Joe Barad, who I've known for many, many years, and you have somebody special. I saw Ross here earlier. I'm sure there he's waving. And I'm sure you all have some special family and friends that are here today. This is an awesome responsibility. It's an incredible responsibility. As I tell people in my district, there are two issues that affect people each and every single day, particularly in my district in Northwest Valley, and that's the streets and their DWP bill. And every time they open it, it takes about 60 days to just overcome that, and then they open the next one. And so as we know, and we've talked for a long time about what we can do in this great city and what we should be doing, and this is probably one of the most important, put it up there as the top, one of the most important commissions and responsibilities for so many reasons, as we've all shared here today. I think we've got an incredible palette of people here with incredible backgrounds and resumes and lifetime experiences. Ask everybody for their aye vote, and with that, we'll go ahead and open the roll and close the roll and tabulate the vote.
15 ayes.
Congratulations. Godspeed. Forthwith. We'll send that forthwith as well without objection. Thank you very, very much. Congratulations. Mr. Kretz, are you ready for item 20?
Yes.
Yes, and Mr. Parks first.
I just want to know if we were going to comply with our request yesterday to have 42 heard early because of the time sensitivity on that legislation for Sacramento.
We do have a hold on 42 right now.
Yeah, but we want to see if we had talked about having it early in our agenda.
So you want to have it now?
We're ready.
Mr. Kretz, if you're okay with that, we'll go ahead and take item 42 because of the time sensitivity and Mr. Parks' request. I'd like to go ahead and take item 42 then. Okay, we've already had, Mr. Parks, we had public comment, we had cards on it, we spoke on that, so I wanted to open it with you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'd ask the CLA to come up. Yesterday, we got access to a 39-page bill that no one had an opportunity to read until the session. CLA has worked overtime to provide us an analysis today of AB 604, and I think it's important that we give them the opportunity to not only overview the report they've given us, and hopefully everyone has it at their desk, but to verbally give us an opportunity to ask questions on this bill and our understandings that it still will be moving as of Thursday from the information that we have, so we have one day. So why don't you give us an overview of AB 604 and highlight the comments in your CLA report.
Good morning, council members. Matthias Fartan for the Office of the CLA. Before you use the CLA report, in regards to the resolution to oppose AB 604. In summary, AB 604 was gutted and amended to resurrect two previous bills related to medical marijuana regulation, which were AB 473 and SB 439. And pretty much these two bills were combined to form a regulatory agency within the Department of Alcoholic Beverages, and pretty much it also recognizes marijuana dispensaries as business entities. Aside from that, I mean, if you have any questions regarding the bill, we are recommending to adopt a resolution from Parks Englander to include in the city's state legislative program opposition to AB 604.
Okay, let me just
I'm sorry, Mr. Parks, I didn't hear the last comment. If we can keep the this is really important. If we can please keep it quiet around the behind the horseshoe, around the chamber. If you can repeat some of the last elements you said as well. This is very important. We're going to be asking for a vote on this in a moment. We do have another speaker on the queue.
Yes. In summary, the CLA is recommending to adopt the Parks Englander resolution to include in the city's 2013-14 state legislative program opposition to AB 604, the Medical Cannabis Regulation and Control Act, which would establish statewide regulations for the supply chain and the sale of medical marijuana.
I'd like to just go very quickly a couple of questions that highlight what's the impact on our longstanding principle of home rule. How does that impact that?
It pretty much, the bill, if passed, would establish regulations at the statewide level on what it would define what a dispensary is. So it may impact Measure D and
which Measure what?
Measure D.
D. Okay.
Yes, which was the city's measure to regulate marijuana dispensaries within the city of Los Angeles.
And for the public, the primary issue on Measure D was what, limiting the number of dispensaries?
Yes, this is correct.
Okay, so this could expand on that particular issue?
Yes, okay. Because it pretty much just defines the dispensaries as an actual storefront entity that's selling marijuana, medical marijuana, and so anything outside of that, the state would regulate.
Okay, what about the issue, does it also provide an opportunity for retail locations at the location of cultivation or processing or storage? Does that under the control of the city, or would that be under control of the legislation?
Joshua Drake from the CLA's office. Under this bill, the city would be able to regulate the storefront dispensaries, but the state would retain the ability to regulate everything else related to medical marijuana.
Okay. Would it impact also the recent U.S. Supreme Court decision about giving jurisdictions the ability to ban?
It could. I believe under the bill, jurisdictions still maybe be able to ban dispensary storefronts, but they would have no say over anything else related to the trade.
Okay, so it would impact our local zoning laws?
Yes, and it's also it seems that it would. It's a fairly vague bill.
Mr. Parks, we have one more speaker. We can come back to you as well.
Thank you.
It's just over time. If you want to push your button again, that's okay. Mr. Koretz? Mr. Koretz still is on the queue. Councilmember Koretz?
So, and I have to admit, I'm not sure where I am on this issue, because I know today, with the amendments that are in, it's probably a worse bill from our perspective than it was the day before. But there's so many different amendments that are kicking around. I'm not sure whether we should oppose based on where it is this minute, or just receive and file and leave it alone, because we know there are a number of pending amendments and we have no idea what form this is actually going to take and how our opposition will be interpreted. So I don't really have a position yet. I'm just offering a thought, and we'll listen to the discussion by everybody else.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Krikorian, followed by Mr. Labange, followed again by Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think Mr. Kretz's point is exactly the reason that there's a problem here, because when we're trying to do legislation on a significantly important issue to the state like this, with great complexity, with many different stakeholder concerns, and we're doing it through a gut and amend process on the last 2 days of the legislative session, that is reason enough to lodge our opposition, I think. State marijuana policy is crying out for legislative solutions that are thoughtful and considered over in the light of day. And we have struggled and suffered at the local level because of the lack of clarity of what the state's policy is on this, because of a lack of a regulatory scheme, because of these generic sort of policies that Sacramento has thrown down and let us to try to figure out how to implement that. So I think it's absolutely imperative that the state legislature take action to fix state medical marijuana policy. But the way to do it is not in the last 48 hours of a legislative session through a gut and amend process. It should be done openly. It should be done with hearings. It should be done in a way that local government can weigh in and actually inform our legislators about how this is going to impact us at the local level. So I ask for your aye vote in Mr. Parks's motion to oppose this bill.
Great, thank you. Mr. Labange.
I rise to support the gentleman of the 2nd District and the 8th District and the 12th District, because truly, members, do we have control of what's going on in our districts? All of a sudden, somebody, even though the city attorney's office works so hard and trying to coordinate, it's not there. So to lose that to the state would be a disaster for municipalities and especially Los Angeles. So I support this to say vote yes on the no.
It's Mr. Parks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just kind of keep my line of questioning. The one thing, and I appreciate Mr. Krikorian's comment, I think just on the fact that it's a gut and amend is more than enough cause to vote oppose it. And what's particularly of importance to us is that just yesterday we approved a motion to support to oppose a piece of legislation, SB 594, and in the CLA's report we said the gut and amend process basically precludes full public participation and basically disrespects the legislative process. And I think that's the same thing here. But let me go through a couple of more questions just so that we're clear. On dealing with the medical marijuana, has anything in this legislation deal with what's been identified as the fraud of script and doctors, and also providing guidance as to dosage, method of delivery, or analyze the drug itself?
There is some wording in the legislation that tries to address that, but it just it makes prescription abuse an issue that would go before the California Medical Board. There's no serious repercussions.
Okay, and the California Medical Board, is that the same judicial board that has been criticized for not being able to rein in doctors for over-prescriptions and a variety of things in the last year or so?
That's correct.
Okay. The other thing is that in dealing with this issue, could you just go over again the definition, the new definition of dispensaries, and how that might impact the city?
Well, again, the dispensaries are defined as storefront locations, and that's pretty much the definition of the dispensaries according to state law, and that would be, everything else would be under the state's control.
Okay. And then also the other state agencies, ABC, that would be given administrative control of the process?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. And then the other issue I wanted to comment on is that on the issue of prior felony conviction, as far as setting standards, who could actually operate one of these, and what's the guidelines they use?
In the current form of the bill, anyone who has a conviction for a serious or violent felony within the last 5 years would be prohibited from operating a dispensary, but it doesn't say anything about felons whose crime was over 5 years ago.
Yeah. So it doesn't take out that you may have spent the 5 years in prison as a part of your 5 years?
No, that's not clear in the bill.
Okay. All right, colleagues, I'd ask that we strongly endorse the CLA's report on AB 604 and oppose it, and that we get that information to the state as quickly as possible, because all those hard-fought battles we've had for Prop D, even if we agreed or disagreed, is in far better shape than what this proposal is. And then when we think about the agencies that they're asking to oversee, all you have to do is go back to your own district and see how ABC has dealt with liquor stores, and then visualize, do you want them to take on this added responsibility of narcotics? All you have to do is go back and follow the direction of the medical board and see how they've not reined in doctors for prescription drugs. And this is one thing that's also interesting, that although it's labeled medical marijuana, it's the only drug that we know of in which there is no guidelines as it relates to the dosage, delivery, what the side effects might be as you get in other medications. So I'd ask that we strongly oppose AB 604.
Mr. Kretz.
Thank you. I think based on this discussion, I'd be inclined to vote for this motion as well. We are absolutely crying out for clarification from Sacramento, but I think for it to actually solve the problems it needs to solve rather than make them worse, as this particular piece of legislation and the amendments would do, it will take some careful planning and collaboration with the cities that are dealing with this issue. So I would ask that we pass this motion, but I would ask that in our letter transmitting our opposition that we note that we believe this issue is crying out for legislation from Sacramento, but that it be done in a careful way in collaboration with local government so it actually solves problems, and that we believe this legislation with the current amendments would make our difficulties in trying to advance the cause of use of medical marijuana as medicine for our seriously ill patients. It would make it considerably worse for us rather than better. And if we can communicate that in the letter, yes, that would be my amendment to your motion, if that's a friendly amendment. And,
okay, then that's accepted by Mr. Parks. Okay.
And I will join my colleagues in voting yes on this motion.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think this piece of state legislation really exposes the horrible framework for medical marijuana that the state has. And as I said before, I think we're going to be in never-ending litigation given that framework that has been presented to us as a local government. I won't go into the merits because I think most members here have already well articulated the problems with this state legislation. But I do want to say this. I want to thank Councilmember Parks for bringing this to our attention, because the City of Los Angeles has the most to gain or lose by anything that happens in Sacramento with respect to medical marijuana, and we should be intimately and aggressively involved in any legislation that happens up there in Sacramento. So I would ask our CLA or our lobbyists up there to please bring to our attention anything that happens with respect to medical marijuana in Sacramento, because the City of Los Angeles is the one that's going to be impacted the most with any of this. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So seeing no other speakers on the queue, let me just in summary for clarification what we're voting on and who's asking for it. It'll be to support the motion before us as amended. Mr. Parks is asking for an aye vote. Mr. Kretz is now asking for an aye vote. Mr. Huizar is now asking for an aye vote. I am now asking for an aye vote. CLA is now asking for an aye vote, and we'll go ahead and open the roll and close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, thank you very much. With that, we're going to go ahead and go into closed session. Not yet.
Forthwith, super forthwith.
Oh, we're still waiting for our people to show up. That's okay. Super urgent forthwith on that last. Super duper urgent forthwith on that last motion. Mr. Kretz.
Yes, I'd also like to ask that we reconsider item 16 for some items that I need to read into the record before we revote.
Okay, we can go ahead and reconsider. We'll open the roll for reconsideration on item 16 for Mr. Kretz. We'll close the roll and we'll tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great, thank you. We'll go ahead and take that item now, if you're ready.
Okay. Yes, item 16 is a mitigated negative declaration and communication. And for the record, the following grant of a height variance is based upon findings of fact set forth in the LA Municipal Code. I believe the council should find that the ZA abused his discretion and erred in failing to consider the unique typographical and regulatory constraints of the property, as well as the general plan policies supporting cohesion and aesthetic parity with residential structures among the Bel Air community. Based on substantial evidence, I find that number one, the denial of the variance would result in practical difficulties and unnecessary hardships inconsistent with the general purpose and intent of applicable zoning regulations. Number two, that there are special circumstances applicable to the property, such as the long, narrow, shallow depth of the parcel, topographical constraints of a traversing water channel, a 15-foot buffer, an additional 10-foot setback beyond the buffer, and another 10-foot setback are constraints that do not apply generally to other properties in the vicinity and warranted approving the variance. Number three, that such a variance is necessary for preservation and enjoyment of substantial property right or use generally possessed by other properties in the same zone vicinity. Number four, the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in the same zone or vicinity in which the property is located. And five, that the granting of the variance will not adversely affect any element of the general plan. The evidence presented demonstrates the following. Findings 1 through 5 as described previously and mandated by the LA Municipal Code are all affirmatively proven. That the ZA erred and abused his discretion as to findings 1 through 5, such that the denial of the grant was an abuse of discretion and inaccurate, and that granting of the variance is supported by the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. I ask that we adopt the findings submitted by the applicant to Plum Committee, recommended adoption of the CEQA clearance as referenced in the findings submitted, and oppose the standard conditions 1 through 8 as attached to those findings. And I ask again for your aye vote.
Great, thank you very much. Seeing no speakers on the queue, we'll go ahead and open the roll. Close the. I'm sorry, you can't yell from the council chamber, sir. If you can open the roll, close the roll. I'm sorry.
Do you have a card?
Let me ask before clarification. I believe these were the amendments, and you were just reading the findings of the amendment, or was this an amendment, or just the findings from Plum?
Those were just findings.
Those were the findings from Plum. There was no. Were there any amendments whatsoever, or simply the findings and the justification on the 245?
No amendments, just findings.
Okay. So with that, it doesn't reopen the process. I believe that's all what I heard as well. Mr. City Attorney, we've got a fantastic city attorney who's just always on it and dialed in, so appreciate that. As long as you're comfortable, Dion, we can only move forward on any motion or action or item or vote with the comfort of Dion. Council roll number 48. So with that, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
All right, thank you very much. That'll be the action. Item 20, I believe, is before us, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, sir. That's item 20, called special for Councilmember Koretz.
Yes, per the city attorney, I just wanted to note that in committee we heard a draft HIPAA notebook, and there is now a final HIPAA notebook available, a copy of which is provided to the clerk. And so I move that for this item, we note that it is a final HIPAA notebook that we are voting on. And there it is. If each council member would like one, we could have produced it, but I suspect not.
And just for the record, Mr. Koretz, Judith Thompson from our office can briefly state what the changes are. They're technical in nature that council will be accepting.
And just as it with having not read the entire notebook yet, just a quick question that I had. Will this also deal with the ability that we've had with ambulance collections to write off under what we haven't been able to do that in the past because of the HIPAA compliance issues? Is that part of the change as well?
The notebook, hello, I'm Judith Thompson the City Attorney's Office. The notebook is basically the official City of Los Angeles HIPAA policy, and it's from the HIPAA regulation. So anything that is pertaining to HIPAA and HIPAA compliance is in that notebook.
Okay, so that brings us just up to current regulations is essentially what we're doing.
Yes, the final regulations that were enacted in January of this year and go into the compliance date is September 23rd of this year.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Seeing no other questions on the queue with that, can you just briefly then just go over for the record, just very briefly, what some of the major highlights are?
Yes, it's just 5 things. We removed the draft watermark from each policy because it was in draft form, now it's in final. We removed blank procedure pages that will be in a separate document that the departments will have. With respect to policy number 6, we set 6 months as a review period for HIPAA documentation in compliance with the regulations. Policy 13, we listed the items that are going to be on our Notice of Patient Rights Privacy Notice. And finally, Policy 33, we removed an erroneous heading.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, seeing no speakers on the queue, we'll go ahead and open the roll and close the roll and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Okay, thank you. That'll be the action. And item 26 is next, I believe. Mr. Clerk?
Item 26, called special for Council Members Parks and Blumenfield.
Yes, and Mr. Blumenfeld, as the chair, if you'd like to open up.
Great, thank you. This item came before my committee 2 weeks ago, and I think we should move forward with releasing the RFP today. I understand, though, that there may be some confusion regarding what is and what is not included in the RFP, so I wanted the city attorney to be here to provide specific clarification. And specifically a question for Ms. Leitner. Can the city award a contract for municipal Wi-Fi or community broadband through the action the council is taking today?
No, not under this RFP.
Thank you. You want to elaborate on that at all? That's the important
Yes,
clarification.
I understand that there were concerns raised about whether broadband or Wi-Fi could be awarded under this RFP. They cannot. There will be some RFP in the future which may be for those services. Under this RFP, we are soliciting proposals for email and desktop services only.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. And obviously, when we move forward with the Wi-Fi RFP in the future, it's a different story, but thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Parks, you're not on the queue, but I believe you wanted to speak on this item as well.
Thank you very much. I would just like to get some information that we went through a couple of years ago, the whole issue of Google. And I've kind of lost track of it. It seems as though at one time it was going to solve all world problems, and then we backed off, and we didn't get the one system that we thought we were going to get, and LAPD still outside of the system, even though Google promised us that they'd have a fix for the DOJ concerns. Could you give us an update? What did we get out of the several $100,000 we spent? Did we get the full contract that we'd asked for? Did we get a rebate if they didn't comply? Maybe you can give us an update on that.
Absolutely, Councilman Parks. Steve Reniker, General Manager for the Information Technology Agency. What the city did get from the Google contract was a consolidation of half the city's mail systems now onto a common platform. It did still leave the Los Angeles Police Department on GroupWise for their email platform because of Google's inability to meet the state of California's DOJ requirements. And as a result of them not being able to comply to that, there was financial consideration given and paid for as a result of, and continue to be done on an annual basis for LAPD not coming across.
That paid to the city?
Yes.
What is it confidential as to what we received?
Melissa Fleming with the City Administrative Officer. Currently, Google reimburses the city the cost of the GroupWise licenses. That amount in the current year is approximately $300,000.
Okay. Is the expectation as we move forward that this RFP is not going to solve those issues, or are they unsolvable due to DOJ's mandates?
The Information Technology Oversight Committee has basically required that we put in the requirements for DOJ compliance in the RFP which we have done. In working through the process, I believe the goal is to try to get to a single common platform, and a lot of that will be dependent on who can meet DOJ compliance.
But I think we did that last time, and we were told by Google they could do it. And throughout the process, they kept doing it, and then they finally said, I can't do it. And so are we going to be in the same boat if somebody addresses it in the RFP, says they can do it? What's the assurances that we will have?
Right now, the playing field is pretty clear on what the responses will be. In the state of California, the only vendor that can provide DOJ compliance is Microsoft.
I think they were a vendor last time.
And correct.
Yeah.
So going forward, where we're at right now, and Google has even indicated this, is that whatever the recommendation would be, it'll either be a pure Microsoft solution for the city of Los Angeles, or if the option were to stay on Google, Google would recommend going with Microsoft Outlook Exchange for the Los Angeles Police Department.
Okay, so we'd stay as we are if we went with Google, or we go back to Microsoft where we would, at one time, we're all on one system.
Well, it would upgrade the Novell group-wise system for LAPD regardless.
We'd be back where we were, though.
Correct.
Okay, but we'd also have all the Microsoft software and apps that we, I guess, lost with Google.
Correct.
Word processing and all that.
Correct.
So that would come back to us on an upgraded level?
So it would be at an upgraded level for the Office products, yes.
Does Google get a red mark for not complying on this RFP as they apply for the new RFP?
That'll be a part of the factor in consideration going forward and taking a look at the total cost of ownership of having two disparate email packages for police and the rest of the city, yes.
Then my final question is that going through this 5 years of changeover, what were the lessons learned that we don't want to repeat with this RFP?
I think the key one was the education, the training component. There was a lot of difficulty for the departments and the folks using the systems. There was not adequate training or advocacy and helping mentor them to get them to use the products. So that's something that's been weighted heavily in this RFP that wasn't considered first time around. The other thing is last time it was only an email RFP. This is not just an email RFP. This is an email RFP with Office products, along with various other solutions that will standardize up to 25 products, where today we're more of in a hybrid structure where the departments are using a variety of different products. We've been able to have the departments weigh in and come back, which is what is listed in the RFP under the hybrid category that says this is the preference of what the departments would like to have today, but it may not be affordable. So we're going to take a look at all the options from all the vendors in the marketplace.
And then my real final question is, what's the timeline to get to that decision?
So we hope that the RFP will be able to get approved for release this morning, and then in 10 days it'll be put on the market. We would hope that we'll have a pre-bid conference on October 1st. We expect questions to clarify items in the RFP by the end of October. And then we're looking at responses due back in a November timeframe, and then start contract negotiations.
Before the end of the year?
That would be the goal. It'll more than likely be the first quarter of next year for approval.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any other members on the queue. Also wanted to thank Mr. Blumenfeld in bringing this forward, hearing the matter in committee, and Mr. Parks for those good questions. In fact, Mr. Parks, you were way over your time, but the questions were so good. I was entertained because I wanted to hear a lot of the answers. You didn't have to know. You're great. You're perfect. It's great. And they're very good questions. And because we did go through a lot of these issues last time, so I'm glad we got those questions asked and answered. Appreciate that. With that, we'll go ahead and open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great. Thank you very much. I believe that takes us now to, where does that take us?
Mr. President.
41, I believe. Yes?
That takes us to item 41. It's a matter scheduled for closed session.
Okay, that's closed session, so we're going to go ahead and ask all members of the public to please leave council chambers. We need to clear council chambers. Sergeants, if you can help escort them out, and we'll lock down chambers as well. For staff, all council members can have one staff member here for this item as well. And city attorney staff, if you're here on this particular item.
never had a traffic accident like this before, where a teenager has decided to run from the police and been struck by a motor vehicle.
5859 KF 5060, watch 3. curfew laws restrict the right of juveniles to be outdoors or in the public places after 10 p.m. until sunrise the next day. Such laws aim to establish a safer community and to better protect people from becoming victims of crimes or becoming involved in a crime. Most people don't agree with our curfew laws and would rather run the risk of being picked up by the police and ticketed for violation of curfew. However, they are more likely to run into the many real dangers that face us every time we go out at night.
We have found that kids out so late are normally caught up in violence, traffic accidents, and when we up to no good. Some of these kids still they're not aware of the law, and they're not educated on it.
Drinking, drugs, sexual predators, and gang-related activities are only few of the dangers we face regardless of how young or old you are. If you are under the age of 18, this law applies to you. What happens if you are caught? You will be taken to the station where the ticket is written out to you and your parent or guardian are called to pick you up. If your parent cannot pick you up, you will be placed into a protective custody or sent to a juvenile facility.
Guardian at something like an event such as Cabrillo Beach.
The guardian is not just someone appointed to by the parents. A guardian is someone appointed by the courts.
You can legally stay out late if you are participating in a religious, educational, or political activity, accompanied by a parent or guardian, going to or from their place of employment, responding to some type of emergency, returning home from school, cultural, or recreation activity.
And that's our message, is not only enforcing the curfew violation, but also educating them that they need to stay home and stay safe.
The curfew laws are not just here to protect us, they're here to protect the safety of everyone in our community.
The average adult spends more than 8 hours in front of a screen each day. Children spend up to 4 hours. Studies show that sedentary lifestyles put you at risk for disease, even at an early age. But a healthy lifestyle is just a click away. Los Angeles Recreation and Parks provides over 16,000 acres of parkland with parks and lakes, swimming pools, golf courses, skate parks, and dog parks, and more than 180 community recreation centers. A healthy lifestyle is just a click away. LAparks.org.
just takes 1 cup.
Every year, thousands of children in our community drop out of school, they quit on their families, they give up on themselves. But together we can change that.
By sponsoring a child for the cost of 1 cup of coffee a week, you can provide a child with a mentor, a place to play,
and a safe haven like Hollenbeck Power.
With 1 cup, I can play soccer after school.
With 1 cup, it helped me get here to college, preparing for my future.
It just takes a moment to change a child's life. Go to onecup.org and make a difference today.
never had a traffic accident like this before, where a teenager has decided to run from the police and been struck by a motor vehicle.
5859 KF 5060, watch 3.
Curfew laws restrict the right of juveniles to be outdoors or in the public places after 10 p.m. until sunrise the next day. Such laws aim to establish a safer community and to better protect people from becoming victims of crimes or becoming involved in a crime. Most people don't agree with our curfew laws and would rather run the risk of being picked up by the police and ticketed for violation of curfew. However, they are more likely to run into the many real dangers that face us every time we go out at night.
We found that kids out so late are normally caught up in violence, traffic accidents, and we up to no good. Some of these kids still they're not aware of the law, and they're not educated on it.
Drinking, drugs, sexual predators, and gang-related activities are only few of the dangers we face regardless of how young or old you are. If you are under the age of 18, this law applies to you. What happens if you are caught? You will be taken to the station where the ticket is written out to you and your parent or guardian are called to pick you up. If your parent cannot pick you up, you will be placed into a protective custody or sent to a juvenile facility.
Guardian at something like an event such as Cabrillo Beach.
The guardian is not just someone appointed to by the parents. A guardian is someone appointed by the courts.
You can legally stay out late if you are participating in a religious, educational, or political activity, accompanied by a parent or guardian, going to or from their place of employment, responding to some type of emergency, returning home from school, cultural, or recreation activity.
And that's our message, is not only enforcing the curfew violation, but also educating them that they need to stay home and stay safe.
The curfew laws are not just here to protect us, they're here to protect the safety of everyone in our community.
The average adult spends more than 8 hours in front of a screen each day. Children spend up to 4 hours. Studies show that sedentary lifestyles put you at risk for disease, even at an early age. But a healthy lifestyle is just a click away. Los Angeles Recreation and Parks provides over 16,000 acres of parkland with parks and lakes, swimming pools, golf courses, skate parks, and dog parks, and more than 180 community recreation centers. A healthy lifestyle is just a click away. laparks.org.
just takes one cup.
Every year, thousands of children in our community drop out of school, they quit on their families, they give up on themselves. But together we can change that.
By sponsoring a child for the cost of 1 cup of coffee a week, you can provide a child with a mentor, a place to play,
and a safe haven like Hollenbeck PAL.
With 1 cup, I can play soccer after school.
With 1 cup, it helped me get here to college, preparing for my future.
It just takes a moment to change a child's life. Go to onecup.org and make a difference today.
A special one that has been distributed for Council's consideration. That's motion Cedillo-Huizar. I believe the City Attorney will speak to the findings.
Mr. City Attorney, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since the posting of today's agenda, the State Assembly has amended AB 60, the Safe and Responsible Driver Act. Immediate action is required before the end of the legislative session on Friday to state the city's position on this legislation. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Thank you very much. On the findings, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes, 1 no.
1 no. The matter is before us. We have one speaker on the queue, Mr. Krikorian. You got to the findings. Thank you so much. So there's no speakers on the queue.
No, sir. We've received no cards for the public.
Okay, on this item here, then let's, excuse me? All right, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. Thank you. So ordered forthwith on that.
Mr. President, that brings us to general public comment for items not on Council's agenda.
Thank you very much. Mr. John Walsh, I see your card, Mr. Walsh. Arnold Sachs. Olga Hall, please.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. They were back there for almost 2 hours discussing on whether they want to have the police run every single homeless person out of Skid Row. And they won't tell us what they decided. We don't know exactly what happened. I'd like to point out that there's now active child prostitution happening in Hollywood. On my website, later this week, I will show you a child prostitute at the corner of Sunset and Vine. Incidentally, every other city in America outlaws child prostitution. Here in Hollywood, it's welcomed. It's welcomed. And I have a photo of the child. And the child is out there, and you don't give a damn about that child. It's a boy of about 14 years of age. He's sprawled on the street. I will put that on the website, and we'll see what happens. Okay, now, we had a accident, a derailment on the Angels flight. The press, the garbage at the LA Times didn't tell you the story. They were trapped in there. There were 4 people trapped in there. The LAPD and the fire department had to rescue them. They weren't harmed, and there's no reason that they might have been harmed. And what is it? What are you saying? You don't give a damn. Do not come to Hollywood. Do not come to LA. There is an outbreak of tuberculosis. Now, if there is no outbreak, tell me there isn't. It is a strain. If you go on our funicular, our railway, the shortest, lowest speed rail in America, what will happen? You will be killed like the concentration camp victim. This city is out of control. I'm asking that you put up a monument to Elise Grupioni's death on the boardwalk. HollywoodHighlands.org. The city is out of control.
Arnold Sachs has returned to Lenox. Olga Hall, followed by Teresa Marquez.
Hello. I came across an article that mentions California Attorney General Kamala Harris has launched an inquiry on the sale of vehicles by the Peterson Automotive Museum because museum experts says it violates the Institute of Museum Ethics. The Friends of the Southwest Museum Coalition has given Kamala Harris twice a package of more than 1,000 signatures at different times at USC and here at these chambers. We want Kamala Harris to come and investigate the Autry Museum that has violated the merger agreement with the Southwest Museum. At the merger, Mrs. Jackie Autry and other officers gave a misleading balance sheet to the board of the Southwest Museum that showed the Autry had $100 million, which in reality it was just a pledge. Mrs. Kamala Harris has to take care of this issue immediately. The destruction of the Southwest Museum should not be allowed by this council and by the people of this city. A theft is a theft, no matter how you paint it.
Mervyn Evans. Thank you. Teresa Marquez.
Thank you, and good afternoon to all of you. My name is Teresa Marquez, third generation in Boyle Heights, and I came to plead to our councilman to start having community meetings with the community. Yesterday you said that you have meetings, that you stated we have meetings. Well, unless you have a mouse in your pocket, because the community is not seeing a community meeting from you since 2005, 2006, when you were first elected. You need to hear the community as a whole. Yes, we have Resurrection, we have a few other meetings. Resurrection deals with them with Resurrection only. Not even, I cannot bring my issues because I'm not part of Resurrection. So you're our representative. You need to start planning to have meetings for the community and talk about Exide, talk about the sidewalks. I am disabled. I will be in a wheelchair in about 2 months, and I need to get around. And I can in Boyle Heights. I'm afraid to go any place because I can't. I have to use the streets. The other thing, I went to your office yesterday, and there was a truck, a city truck parked in a handicap. Would not allow me to park there. I had to park someplace else. I reported it to your office, and they moved it. The other thing is trash. Yesterday coming here, I counted 20 mattresses from Fresno Street that you're very much aware of to the river on 4th Street. 20 mattresses on the street. And all of you, please listen to this. The reason why there is so many mattresses going out there is because bed bugs. And that's a health issue.
All
Kids
right,
are
thank you
walking
so much.
and kicking them and stepping.
Richard Robinson. Here, Mike Pell. You're next, Michael.
Mr. President, members, I was sent here to help the homeless by the University of... I was sent in 1971 to help the homeless. Mr. Bradley at that time was a city councilman. Sam Yorty was trying to close down a hotel. The hotel is $1 million hotel at 5th and Main. Mr. Bradley successfully became the mayor of Los Angeles. Sir, I was born, bred, and educated religiously on the campuses of the University of Michigan and Eastern Michigan. I'm 72 years of age. I decided to not become a preacher. Mr. Bradley said no to Sam Yorty. Most of us were inspired by the Sphinx. There I go again. The Sphinx of City Hall. 42 years ago, I saw him. Gee, could show up, Mr. Bradley, but that's another story. When the tide comes in next year, when Nancy becomes Speaker of the House and Boehmer, whatever the idiot's name is a member of the minority, I hope you will consider helping me take the $1 million hotel from the greedy. Thank you.
Michael Pell. Richard, have a good afternoon.
Thank you, boss.
It's not your boss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I sincerely hope and pray that one of the adjourning motions today will be in all members in memory of the 9/11 victims, and that I am very disappointed that there appears to be no commemorations anywhere in the city. Oh, good. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Dollhouse, Mr. Dollhouse.
I do not write Dollhouse Dude on my cards anymore, sir. It's just a bad habit that you have, remembering me, my old name. Anyway, you know my main issue, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? How you make people homeless through your policies? It's not just you, it's every city in the world. We are a bunch of stupid idiots, and I'm glad we're able to use some bad language. Right, Mr. President? And we can dress like monkeys in silk, because you always do anyway. But you're still monkeys. But I didn't come here to insult you. I come here to tell you there is a way to provide housing for everyone. But, you know, there's a lot of other issues. You would rather build, you would rather collect crazy socks. Or you would rather, the teachers that were here today, they help the kids grow up in the school system. But when they become homeless, nobody gives a S-H-I-T.
Hey!
I didn't say it. Anyway, he said it. Anyway,
Mr. Sergeant, hold the time. No comment from the gentleman from Boyle Heights with the dark glasses on. Mr. Herman, please give him a warning. Julie, count to 2. Continue.
Okay, well, fornication under the consent of the king. You know what that means? Fuck. That is a historical fact. The king had to give the sailors permission to go and look for ladies. Fornication under the consent of the king. That's what you're doing to the people.
That doesn't have any business in the city of Los Angeles. Go, next is Zuma Dog here? Zuma Dog is not here. Victor Marmon. Victor, come up here. Followed by Henry Marine.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the City Council. My name is Victor Marmon. I rise to speak to you today as a member of the public and on behalf of my clients Janice and Henry Lazaroff about Charter Section 245 and the integrity of the planning process in this city. After previously asserting jurisdiction under 245, on July 3, 2013, the Council vetoed the denial by the West LA APC of a height variance appeal at 360 North Stone Canyon Road and sent the appeal back to the West LA APC to be considered again. The APC did exactly what the Council asked. It reheard the matter, came to the same conclusion, denied the height variance, and then on August 27, you vetoed their action again. The Bel Air Beverly Crest Neighborhood Council, the Hillside Federation, representing a federation of over 41 homeowners associations, representing over 200,000 people, Save Our Mountains, Inc., a coalition of 4 homeowners associations representing 11,000 citizens, other community leaders, members of the public, and my clients have objected to the use of Section 245 in this manner. I would also like to say that I believe that it was a denial of the right of fair hearing to not permit me to speak in connection with the reconsideration of Agenda Item 16 earlier today. Thank you.
All right, Henry Marine.
Yes, we know the devil is not in the details. The devil is in the people that ignore the details and make others understand they can legally do what they cannot do, yet did on an ongoing basis. The CAO agreed to make others understand that 10% deferred from the base pay sum of craftsmen was a PLA labor discount. Hecla's risk manager made TPAs understand craftsmen in Class A per diem positions, disabled past 15 days, or unemployed day workers, and they have no right to workers' compensation benefits from HACLA, nor to return to work for HACLA. By May 2013, the past members of this council understood vesting credit rules, double credit rules, and rollovers. The City Council directed LACERS to inform all LACERS members that were misrepresented as hire and hold employees that they are entitled to government service credit and can roll over MOU 35 deferred funds. However, the City and HACLA has to provide Building Trades Council 90-day written notice before union trusts can roll over the government funds they publicly agreed to invest for the benefit of union-affiliated HACLA and COLA employees. Consequently, this new council will get to direct management to provide permanent status to W-2 city employees entitled to 1 or more years of government service credit and provide 90-day written notice to all others as required by law. Now, if you're not listening, it ain't my fault.
All right, next speaker is Mr. Herman.
We're not out of order, so I still have my lunch. I brought my banana, but can we fix our time? There is no order or regulations, as you can see in here. You had us sitting out in the hallway for how long? And Mr. Cedillo, we do have something very important to talk about when it comes to Hazard Park, and I'm sure in the best interest of the public, you and Mr. Huizar will make good decisions before you tamper with a park and also
Mr. President,
the
you should be speaking to the council as a whole.
I am speaking on behalf of our community, sir. Please do not interrupt. Whereas the City of Los Angeles' inability to respect the litigation of how to conduct business. Allow us, under our First Amendment rights, to speak, sir, and not interrupt. There's many violations of the Brown Act, and many people don't know that. When I come in through that front door downstairs, yes, I do present an ID, but under the Brown Act, you don't have to show it. So learn something from Zuma Dog. Hooty-hoo! Yes, Zuma Dog will help you and teach you that you do have rights, as he beat Los Angeles in a federal, right, Mr. Gregorian, when you're having your lunch while some of your...
Please address the chair, please.
And going back, furthermore, I just love it. We gave out license to people to drink. We gave out an ordinance to prevent it, stop it. Which way are we going? Which way does the banana tilt in this scenario here, sirs? Let's have accountability. Let's have responsibility. And respectfully, respect your constituents who sit here from 10 a.m. to presently. And furthermore, you have violated our rights under Title I of the American Disability Act when you hinder our portion of speaking, when you rudely interrupt us, Mr. LaBonge. Have a nice day.
Mr. Evans, to the microphone real quick. We called you earlier, but we came back. Thank you. Your comment.
First off, I want to say, if there's one person who reflects the great qualities of Los Angeles, it's Councilman Tom LaBonge. He's one of the best and most knowledgeable people in this city, on the future of this city. Tremendous service, never a hint of scandal. No hint of sex scandal, no hint of financial scandal. The man's an outstanding man. Now, as you know, I have urged the governor to have parole to military service. I have asked Mr. Biden and Congresswoman Lee to sponsor a parole to military service. It is a disgrace that the United States only has 100 UN peacekeepers. There are a number of first-time offenders that if we could put them in the National Guard, teach them a variety of things, put them in that UN peacekeeping force to do good things. Nowhere else in the world will we have a situation such as Rwanda where people are raping people and chopping their arms off. We can stop that. A few brothers from South LA and Compton can resolve that problem. Let me quickly close. I would hope, despite any federal cutbacks in nutritional programs, that our city would make a commitment to our seniors. A commitment that we will have wheels on meals regardless of what they do in Washington, D.C. There are far too many citizens who are senior citizens and disabled who desperately need somebody to come check on them every day. Mr. LaBonge, I know that you are deeply concerned about the seniors and seniors going hungry, and I hope that you will continue to provide outstanding leadership and ensure that our city has a Meals on Wheels program. Merv Evans, mervinevans.com. I'll see you September 17th. Thank you.
All right, thank you, members. That concludes our public comment. Mr. City Clerk, what's before us?
Mr. President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
So ordered. Any announcements, members? Mr. Fuentes.
Mr. Chair, with Mr. Cedillo's permission, the Housing Committee will begin half an hour upon adjournment of Council.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Remember, today is 9/11. There is a public program at Fire Station 88 in the San Fernando Valley at 6 o'clock tonight, 5150 Sepulveda, right at the 405 and the Sepulveda Boulevard. Any other announcements? Sergeant, there was disruption. Please note that.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, tomorrow, September 12th at 10 a.m. will be a special event at the Grammy Museum in honor of Alejandro Fernandez, a famous Latin singer who has just released a new album and who will be performing at the Nokia Center later this year. I'll be there to present a resolution to Alejandro to declare the day the Alejandro Fernandez Day. All are welcome to attend.
Thank you very much, Mr. Price. Members, we have adjourning motion today for a very special person. We have one adjourning motion. I ask all to rise. Sergeants, if you could ask those guests to rise for adjourning motion. Mr. Gil Cedillo.
Mr. President, thank you. Mr. Wesson, thank you. Colleagues, I stand to ask that we adjourn in motion of Mr. Cedillo. There are many people who sometimes approach me on the floor and they call me Mr. Cedillo, and I turn around and look over my shoulder because when I heard that, people were usually talking about my father. And so I just want to be clear. He's Mr. Cedillo. You can call me Gil. You can call me anything, but let the record be clear that Mr. Cedillo was my dad. He passed this Sunday. His life began in the post-Mexican Revolution. His family came from a small town called Tahualilo, Zaragoza, Durango. They came in the 1920s. Now think of this. They came in the 1920s looking for employment at the Santa Fe Railroad in Barstow, California. Imagine how difficult it must have been that you were looking for prosperity, you went to Barstow, California. And those were the challenges, and that was the beginning of his life. He was born January 10th, 1929. Now, the Depression and the desert were not kind to him. His father passed away shortly after his death. His mother returned to Mexico. So he was raised by his grandfather, who was blind, and his grandmother. It was difficult in those days. The challenges that confronted this nation in the Great Depression were overwhelming, and there was discrimination that was rampant. We could hardly afford the types of resistance and demonstrations that took place later on. He left Barstow at the very young age of 13 and came here and went to junior high school right here where the LAUSD school board was at Fort Moore. Central Junior High, very generic name like that. He went to Central Junior High, graduated, enrolled himself, and then went to Belmont High School. During that time period, he and his friend Fernando Real worked at Grom's Chinese, worked at the Hollywood Roosevelt, worked at a restaurant next door, washing dishes, odd jobs. He also worked at American Can Company. Those were challenging times, so challenging that he said he left high school to join the Army. He was a member of the 82nd Airborne, very proud, very patriotic. But he also appreciated, as he said, I got 3 squares and underwear. In the Army, he lived in the South, and it was really his formative years. And I think they had this big impression on him, and that impressed us. He became a boxer. He represented the area there in boxing. He began his appreciation for jazz, big band music, Billy Eckstine, all the greats. He became a big jazz fan. And so in our house, we heard Vicente Fernandez, but we also heard Billy Eckstine and Count Basie and Tony Bennett and Frank Sinatra. It was rich in Boyle Heights for us where we lived. He came back to Barstow on leave, met my mom. They stood in love for 65 years till she passed last year, and brought her to Boyle Heights, where our family grew up. First on 4th in Chicago, later across from Estrada Courts, later on Lanfranco. It was probably the best of our years in Boyle Heights. We loved it. We lived next to the Midnighters. Frank Romero lived across the street. My dad worked at American Can Company, and he came home every day, a proud man, working sometimes 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, high production, prosperity in the nation, and he was part of that great effort that built this country in the 60s. And so he was able to buy his first home from his Army partner, Robert Carrillo. And I'll never forget what it was like, because we grew up in a neighborhood some people might call a tough neighborhood. I didn't notice the difference. I don't think any of us did. But it was great to have, you know, your dad show up at your playground or at your park, to see him there, because you knew you had safe passage. I remember one day somebody stole my mitt. I went home crying. And I told my dad, he said, "What's wrong?" I said, "They stole my mitt." These little, you know, guys down the street, these little cholos. He said, "What?" He walked out the door. He came back a few minutes ago. He had the mitt. It was a great time for us. He never missed a practice, whether it was us playing football, running track, my sister dancing, cheerleading. He was omnipresent. In fact, I had a friend who worked here for 8 years, recently just left the city. His name was Tony Villar. He came to my house one day and he said, "Hey, I want you to come with us." He picked me up in the afternoon. My dad said, "Do your chores." So, you know, my dad was a boxer. We had a punching bag in the back. We had a heavy bag in the garage. And so my friend Tony says, "You still do what your dad says?" And I said, "Yeah." And then my dad came right behind. He says, "Hey, I told you to get in the back." He says, "Hey, Tony, did you come here to help?" He said, "Oh, no, Mr. Cedillo. I'll be back." So he came back. He called me from Beijing just the other day to tell me that he'll be coming back. So anyway, that was our life in Boyle Heights. It was a great life. The factory closed, as we know. America's changed, and all the great factories closed, and his closed, American Can Company. He was a member of the Steelworkers of America. They closed the factory. It worked out good for us because he got a lump sum, and we bought a house in Alhambra, and we all began to get older. He went to work for the Teamsters at the Kearns Foods, and then later on he worked down at Starkist Tuna. Very proud union guy, you know, rank and file guy, a shop steward. We get a lot of our characteristics from him. You know, he's a little stubborn, you know, a little pressing sometimes. So a lot of that, but he's very generous. Last year you heard me talk about my mom and how generous. We had an open door policy. If the door was open, you could come in. But if you came in, you know, you get fed at my house, but you might also get scolded if you weren't on the straight and narrow. And my mom was very generous, and my dad supported that because he was always working and very generous. As he later on moved on, he moved into retirement. And those may have been for him, actually, the better years, because he was able then to care for all his grandchildren and put a little bit more time into the parenting that he didn't have when he was working double shifts and overtime and graveyard. And so he really appreciated that. So I have a lot of nephews and nieces who have been able to enjoy going to the track, one of his favorites, going to a baseball game when it starts, you know, going to other activities. He spent a lot of time with them. He learned to cook in the Army, besides being a boxer and a great aficionado of music. He learned to cook. He was a great cook. And I'll tell you, every member of my family, as we've talked this week, talks about those great stacks of pancakes. He was like IHOP. You never had one bad pancake, you know? Just a great, great man. We'll miss him. He went without much pain or without much suffering. Sunday morning, he threw a few jabs to my brother-in-law, you know, patted the dog, took a few more breaths, and is now up there fussing with my mom where they belong. I thank you, all of you, for your friendship and your support and your words of kindness during this time period. And I thank each and every one of you. As you said, Tom, life is precious. We only have today. It's a gift. That's why we call it a present. And I thank each and every one of you for being so supportive during this time period. Thank you so much. God bless.
God bless you. God bless Mr. Cedillo. Members, every day is a blessing. Continue this. And that was such a wonderful eulogy about your father and his life and his struggle. And that guy, Tony, what did he ever end up doing? I know. Let's remember Mr. Cedillo. This meeting is now adjourned. Go ahead and serve the city well. Thank you very much.